For anybody who wants to know how to take a subframe out, well, there's quite a bit involved. That's your subframe. Ties in here. Okay. Ties in over here with this little plate. That plate right there. These two bolts go in here. The other one goes up on there. Okay, so that ties in the little edge right there of the subframe. That one little section. Then that bolt ties in. Okay, then the whole thing stretches across the car. Goes up underneath here. You tie in there again to your, well, it doesn't technically tie in there. The engine mount ties in there with your transmission mount, and then stretches up to the front of the car and ties in again there. And you have a engine mount there as well, which I took them both out already. Once you drop them out, you gotta take these bolts. You gotta take this bolt out. You gotta take that bolt out for the transmission mount. That bolt out for the engine mount. I mean, that bolt. Sorry, it's getting late. And like I said, you take those bolts out first, because otherwise, you know, you just take them out first. Then after you do, support the transmission and engine, you know, with a jack. Or actually, before you do, I did that. I put the jack in, took the weight off of them, and that way those bolts would come out easier. And then, you know, the weight was off, and I could go ahead and take off this center support frame that stretched along and tied into the two of them. It's all black. It's already put up for the night. Like I said, it's getting late. So, yeah, that's gotta come out. That center brace for your engine and transmission mount. And after you get that out and the other things I mentioned, you know, there's this is what started the problem. I mean, you see how these are all just rusted out. I wanted to just change the control arm, and everything that held the control arm was right here. And you see what happened once I went to take it out. So that's why I'm going to replace now the entire subframe, aka cross member, that stretches all the way across the car, all the way across, and it ties in the same way it did over here, over there. So there's some things that you gotta take off. It's all common sense. I mean, you know, you gotta disconnect it from the control arms and all that stuff, and do it in a way that it makes sense. Obviously, I tell you, the witch's tit of this, the big deal. That's a pain in the butt. Is it ties into your power steering rack. The cross member does. So you see that bolt there? That's one brace that goes around the power steering rack. And then up above there's another nut they're kind of tough to get to. It's pretty tricky. You're going to have to use I believe I used a 17 millimeter wrench on this one on the bottom, and then I was able to get a 17 millimeter socket on the one up above. It's back there. You can see it in this shot. And then over here, there's two of them. There's two of them up there. I don't know. Can't really see what I'm shining this light on, but I hope you got a good view. You can see there's two of them up above, and then there's the one down below on this side. What's up with the resolution? It's pretty filthy. I don't know why that's so. There we go. Now it's all clear enough. Look at that. Okay, so there's the one there. There's the one up above. There's two. And then the same thing over there. You got the one. And you got one up above. Okay. Well, you can see it. It's up there. And it's tight. It's tight. So, like I said, they gotta come off. It ties into your power steering rack. And without removing that stuff, obviously you're not gonna be able to drop this sucker, which stretches all the way across the car to that side and this side. As you can tell, it's kind of tight down here. That's probably why the camera isn't picking up everything so good too. I only got the car jacked up, 3 feet or so in the air. And I'm making the best of it. So, I took the knuckle off earlier. The steering knuckle off of that earlier. I had to because the drive axle was also bad. So as you can see right now, there's some plastic in there covering up because I'm not going to be able to put the new one back in tonight. We don't want any dirt or anything getting into the transmission. So yeah, I need a new shock too. I would say Nissan Altimas 2001, stay away from them. Or if you do buy one, really examine it for the rust. Because as you can tell, it's pretty severe. You see that. That's why the subframe definitely has to get changed. Look at it. It's just terrible. Yeah, that gaping hole is where you're supposed to be able to tie your control arms bracket and everything. You're supposed to be able to tie it all in there, which is what I was told when I bought the car. That was all I was gonna need, was a new control arm. So anyway, I'll be taking the connection off there. Gonna have to cut those bolts, get some new ones in order to drop this and get this out as well, because there's just not enough room with that tailpipe there. You see there's gonna be no clearance to drop it down. I am gonna try before I cut those bolts, and I'm gonna see if there's enough clearance. I think there just may be. If not, like I said, I'll cut those, get a new gasket, and replace the gasket and the bolts, and get this baby out of here. Get a new one up in there. First thing I'll do is, secure it so it's up in the air, and then I'll start putting on the steering rack brackets back on and work in reverse. you know, get the transmission mount back in, the new transmission mount and center support back up in there to hold it back in, and you know, jump back out here and put the knuckle back on, get my caliper down out of the air and back on, and you know, yeah, there's a lot of work involved in a job like this. I've been out here since 8 o'clock this morning, so it's a 10-minute video already. Wow, that's a lot of time. So in a nutshell, there you have it. Subframe removal is definitely necessary, as you can see. You're gonna need that. You're gonna need a 500-pound torque ratchet. These bolts that are on this car would not have been coming out without that 500-pound torque ratchet. But as you can see, everything's pretty much ready to go here. The sway bar has been disconnected from the sway bar link going to the control arm on this side. The brackets all taken off on this side, the one that held it into the car. To the frame of the car. There's a little bracket on both sides here. This holds in your control arm, so you have to get that nut off. I'm gonna have to get this ball joint nut off on this side and drop that down so I can slide this control arm off of the subframe. Needs to come off of the subframe. Everything else has been removed that holds in the control arm. There was another brace here that came off as well earlier. And there's a better look at that other brace that's holding onto the subframe wrapped around the power steering rack. So there you have it, guys. It's a big job. I'm really concerned about that as well, because that's where my center support bracket goes for the engine mount and transmission mount. It stretches from back there all the way up to here, and look at where it's tying into. Just more rust. That's no good. That's got to hold up the center support. The front end, the lower front engine mount, you know. And then in the back, the transmission mount. Luckily everything doesn't look too bad back there, but that's bad. That's where it's got to tie into. I can't even believe those bolts came out without just ripping it to hell. So we'll see what happens, guys. There's lots more to do here, and I'll probably end up seeing if I can get a piece welded or something to fix that. We'll see what happens. Okay, so I'm in it to win it. All right.